Melissa Casias lived a peaceful, ordinary life in the quiet mountain town of Pine Hill, Colorado. At 27 years old, she had built a routine that was both simple and fulfilling. Working as a night shift nurse at Pine Hill General Hospital, she was known for her dedication and gentle nature. Her patients adored her, and her colleagues admired her focus and reliability. When she wasn't working, she volunteered at the local animal shelter, where she spent weekends feeding, bathing, and walking abandoned dogs. Her life, by all accounts, was stable, predictable, and full of promise. She lived alone in a small but cozy second-floor apartment only a few blocks away from her workplace. Her neighbors often saw her jogging in the mornings or watering her balcony plants in the evening. She drove a silver Honda Civic, always parked neatly in the same spot. She wasn't on social media much, but she regularly texted and called her mother, who lived in New Mexico. Melissa's closest friends described her as warm, thoughtful, and a creature of habit. She was the type of person who always replied to messages, always showed up on time, and always followed through on promises. On the night of June 11, 2021, Melissa returned home from her shift just after 11 p.m. A neighbor briefly saw her getting out of her car and entering her apartment. That would be the last time anyone saw her. When she didn't show up for work the next night, her co-workers were surprised. When she didn't answer her phone the next morning, her family grew concerned. When the police entered her apartment later that afternoon, they found everything in place, keys on the counter, phone charging by the bed, and her car still parked outside. But Melissa was gone. The search for Melissa Casias began immediately after the police found her apartment undisturbed and her belongings untouched. Officers canvassed the area, spoke with neighbors, and reviewed her phone records and recent activity. But there were no signs of forced entry, no reports of unusual noise, and no evidence to suggest she had planned to leave on her own. Her purse still held her wallet and ID, her car was locked and unused, and her phone had no outgoing calls or texts after 11:03 p.m. the night she returned home. It was as if she had simply vanished from her apartment without taking a single thing with her. Flyers were printed and distributed across Pine Hill. Local news ran the story for days, urging anyone with information to come forward. The hospital staff was devastated. Friends and co-workers helped organize search parties that combed the nearby hiking trails and wooded areas. Drones scanned the surrounding terrain. Dogs picked up no useful scent. Melissa had no known enemies, no history of depression or anxiety, and no financial trouble. Her last known communication, a simple goodnight text to her best friend, offered no clue. 3 days into the investigation, detectives started reviewing security footage from nearby businesses. None captured anything out of the ordinary. Melissa never left her building, at least not through the front. A neighbor mentioned hearing a dull sound, like a soft thump, around midnight, but thought nothing of it at the time. Her bedroom window was found slightly open, which her family insisted was unusual. Still, there was nothing concrete to follow. With no leads, no suspects, and no evidence of foul play, the case quickly hit a dead end. The small town of Pine Hill, once calm and uneventful, was now gripped by uncertainty. Fear slowly began to replace hope. 2 weeks after Melissa Casias vanished, the case took a sudden and unsettling turn. Early one morning, a jogger passing the local animal shelter spotted something unusual on a bench near the entrance. It was Melissa's hospital ID badge, clean, undamaged, and placed neatly in the center of the bench as if someone had intentionally left it there to be found. Shelter staff confirmed it hadn't been there the day before. The badge was quickly handed over to the police, who sent it for forensic analysis. For the first time in days, investigators had a tangible clue to work with. Surveillance cameras on nearby buildings were reviewed. One camera, located at a gas station across the street, had captured blurry footage of a hooded figure walking near the shelter at 3:12 a.m. The person's face was hidden, but a small tattoo on their left wrist was briefly visible when they reached into their pocket. Investigators cross-referenced the footage with individuals known to frequent the area. A name surfaced, Derek Cole, a local volunteer at the shelter who had worked several shifts with Melissa in the months leading up to her disappearance. Derek was quiet, socially awkward, and often kept to himself. But a background check revealed several restraining orders filed against him in the past, all from women in different towns. Though none led to criminal charges, the pattern was troubling. When questioned, Derek denied any involvement and claimed he hadn't seen Melissa in weeks. However, during a search of his apartment, police found a notebook filled with obsessive notes about her, daily routines, sketches of her apartment complex, even imagined conversations. Despite the disturbing nature of his writings, there was no physical evidence tying him to the disappearance. DNA from the badge didn't match his. He remained a person of interest, but not a suspect. With Derek Cole ruled out by DNA evidence, investigators were left frustrated and increasingly desperate. But the case took a darker turn when an unexpected call came in from Arizona. A woman named Olivia Martinez reached out after seeing Melissa's story on a true crime podcast. Her sister, Daniela, had gone missing in 2016 under eerily similar circumstances. Daniela had been active in a mental health support group forum, just like Melissa, and vanished without a trace. Her apartment had been left untouched, and her phone and wallet were still inside. The cases shared disturbing parallels. This prompted detectives to widen their scope. They compiled a list of other missing women between the ages of 25 and 30, all of whom had vanished from small towns across the country. After weeks of analysis, they identified 5 cases with chilling similarities. Each woman was kind-hearted, socially active, and had some connection to online support groups. None had any history of running away or mental illness. And each one had disappeared without signs of struggle. Cybercrime experts were brought in to trace digital patterns. A common link emerged. An anonymous account named KindSoul21 had been in contact with every one of the women days before they vanished. The messages appeared friendly and supportive but came from encrypted servers that left no traceable IP. Investigators uncovered that each woman had clicked a link sent by this user. It led to a fake therapy website, and experts confirmed the link installed spyware capable of monitoring the device remotely. The trail finally pointed to someone with the technical skills to build such a tool. A former cybersecurity engineer named Nathan Greaves had once been accused of online stalking and harassment, though he was never convicted. His digital fingerprint matched the spyware code. A manhunt began, but he had already disappeared. The manhunt for Nathan Greaves spread across multiple states, but he seemed to have vanished just like his victims. His last known location was a remote cabin deep in the Idaho wilderness, where authorities found a scene that would haunt them for years. Inside the isolated home, investigators discovered a hidden basement filled with disturbing evidence, boxes containing personal items from the missing women, including Melissa Casias. There were photographs, pieces of clothing, jewelry, and strands of hair sealed in plastic bags. Melissa's silver necklace, the one she wore every day, was among them. But the most terrifying detail was what wasn't found: no bodies, no signs of Melissa or the other women. Just artifacts, like trophies, carefully preserved and catalogued. Despite the overwhelming evidence linking Nathan to the disappearances, there was still no sign of him. He had vanished off the grid, leaving behind no paper trail, no digital footprint, and no recent sightings. The FBI added him to its most wanted list and offered a substantial reward for information, but years passed without progress. Melissa's family clung to hope, but the lack of closure was unbearable. Then, in the summer of 2024, a hiker stumbled upon a shallow grave in a dense forest in Montana. Inside were human remains later confirmed through dental records to be those of Melissa Casias. Her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. Alongside her remains was her engraved bracelet, still intact. The discovery confirmed what many had feared: Melissa had been murdered. But Nathan Greaves was still nowhere to be found. The case of Melissa Casias became one of the most haunting unsolved crimes in recent history. Though her story finally had an ending, justice had not been served. The man responsible remained at large. And the fear lingered: he could strike again.